Have you tried to remove junk food from your diet only to find a Snickers bar back in your desk drawer or a bag of chips in your glove compartment? This video is going to give you 6 compelling reasons to get rid of the salt, oil, and sugar in your diet for good. I'm Carly. I'm a plant-based nutritionist. I also have a background in behavior modification. So I enjoy equipping individuals with the information necessary to make those drastic lifestyle changes, to reach their health goals and better their lives in more ways than you could possibly imagine. First of all, what specifically is an SOS-Free diet? This is the acronym given to denounce the salt, oil, and sugar that is found in the majority of our current food supply. So these are mostly things in boxes, bags, and cans. Pretty much anything in the grocery store with a label is likely to have some form of salt, sugar, or oil. Now these have many, many different names. So you're unlikely to look at the package and just see salt, sugar, oil. Sometimes you will, but other times it can be more insidious. So the reasons you're going to want to remove these foods from your diet, whether to an extreme extent and get them 100% out or just cut back drastically for health reasons, it's perfectly fine because I'm trying to meet you where you're at, and any change towards minimizing these items is going to help your situation. So the first reason to cut these foods from your diet is the fact that they are so detrimental to your health. They increase your risk of chronic disease from anywhere from Alzheimer's to cardiovascular disease, blood vessel disorders, kidney disease, mood disorders, autism, diabetes, obesity. A whole spectrum of illnesses can be significantly reduced by getting these items out of your regular dietary intake. They're also pro-inflammatory. They cause free radicals and oxidative stress. They are toxic by any definition. Oil is particularly damaging to the endothelial lining of your blood vessels. It causes your arteries to stiffen, making it more difficult for them to dilate and allow different volumes of blood to flow through. They also make the blood more viscous, so the red blood vessels tend to stick together, causing more issues, such as strokes and heart attacks. Salt. Now this is the #1 cause of hypertension in the world due to its impact on the body's need to retain water, given the higher salt concentrations. It also increases risk for autoimmune diseases. It impairs arterial function. It dehydrates the bowel, causing constipation. It suppresses our most powerful detox enzymes. It's also indicated in kidney disease and kidney stone formation. Now, these are incredibly common in my society. Let's talk about sugar. Everybody knows the harmful effects of sugar, but did you know it causes liver toxicity by inducing fatty liver disease? It's also a pro-oxidant, it rapidly ages cells, and it causes dental caries. Prior to the invention of these processed foods, we literally did not brush our teeth with toothpaste. Sugar feeds those harmful bacteria that are going to deteriorate your teeth and your gums. All right, let's move on to number 2. So, salt, sugar, and oil disrupt your satiety mechanisms, your body's ability to register when in fact it's had enough to eat. So that feeling of being satisfied or feeling full after a meal, that has completely been disrupted if you are going to ingest meals with salt, oil, or sugar in them, because our body cannot register the calories brought in by these substances. There are 3 kinds of receptors on our stomach. We have stretch receptors, we have calorie receptors, and we have nutrient receptors. Now, although these foods are high in calories, they are devoid of things like fiber and water, which would trigger the stretch receptors. And they're also devoid of nutrients, so micronutrients as well as phytochemicals, antioxidants. These are the things that are going to trigger your nutrient receptors. So these substances have a way of sneaking in under the radar and getting absorbed by the body rather rapidly before your body has a chance to process the fact that you just ingested a bunch of calories. So when you eat a meal with added oil, for instance, you will be ingesting those additional calories, but your body will not pick up on those calories. So you will continue to overconsume when you otherwise may have ended your meal, had you gotten those calories from more whole food options like potatoes or rice or beans. The third reason to consider an SOS-free diet is the fact that these foods stimulate appetite. They are highly concentrated substances. We are not designed to be able to deal with these types of foods. So when we ingest a salt, for instance, yes, we do need salt to live. Let me get that out of the way. But sodium is found naturally in whole foods, specifically greens and vegetables. So when you eat broccoli, you get about 44 milligrams per serving of sodium, and you only need 1,500 per day. So it's very easily accommodated by eating these healthier foods. So studies have shown that when you actually eat a meal containing salt, you are likely to consume on average 11% more calories than you would have eating the same meal without the salt. Oil and sugar also have this impact on the body because the higher calorically dense a food is, especially these artificially calorically dense foods, the more your brain is going to release the neurotransmitter dopamine, which is going to influence you to eat more and more and more of that food. Because we are designed to recognize dopamine as the signal to keep going, keep moving forward with our behavior, whatever that behavior is, because it seems to be increasing the likelihood of our survival. So basically these foods have artificially hijacked these innate neurological pathways that are also triggered by other highly refined substances, such as drugs and alcohol. The fourth reason to consider removing salt, oil, and sugar from your diet is the fact that they perpetuate cravings. If you've ever heard the slogan, once you pop, you just can't stop, I think you get the point. It's normal in our society to feel an uncontrollable craving and need to overconsume sweets. Now this will vary depending on genetic differences, but each of these foods are addictive to some point. So they go through the same exact refining processes as drugs and alcohol. So when you remove everything that's of value to human health from these items, sugar, for instance, you remove the fiber and the antioxidants, the phytochemicals, the fats and the protein from the sugar beet, you have what's left is these tiny concentrated sugar granules. Now, when we ingest those, it's so different from ingesting a beet because you're going to get that slow, gradual release of the liberation of the calories and everything that's incorporated in that package. But when you're cutting through the digestion process by artificially digesting it mechanically outside of your body and then ingesting it, your body doesn't know what to do with it. So it's going to rapidly be absorbed by the bloodstream. And the quicker the food is absorbed and the higher the calorie concentration, the more dopamine that's going to be released in the brain. So that induces a cascade of craving perpetuations. Basically what a craving is that your body's recognizing that this substance is very valuable to my survival and reproductive capabilities. So when you eat things that are so highly refined like salt, sugar, and oil, your innate neurological pathways are going to believe that these things are good for you and therefore you should continue consuming them and seeking them out in your environment. Your brain is really smart and it wants to remember where you found those items, and it will tell you over and over and over after you've recently consumed them, you should go back and get more of that. You should probably invest in getting a whole supply of that to keep in your desk drawer. But there's good news. The longer you refrain from putting any of these chemicals in your body, the easier it is to keep them out of your diet completely. I don't have any cravings for sugar anymore, and I literally used to live on it as my one and only food group. I got really sick out of college, and I decided my diet was going to consist of Mike and Ike's peanut butter M&Ms and Reese's peanut butter cups. Didn't go so well. I had all sorts of health issues, as well as mental health issues, dental problems. It's just not worth it to me. It's better for me as somebody who clearly had an addictive problem with consuming that degree of sugar to just abstain from it 100%, as opposed to trying to keep little amounts in my diet. to satisfy that sweet tooth. So experts say it can take anywhere between 30 and 90 days to completely rid yourself of these cravings. Now, you're gonna have these spontaneous recoveries, they're called, after the 90 days, where every once in a while your brain, something in your environment will trigger a similar situation that you'd been in the past where you had these items, and all of a sudden you'll get this really strong trigger to go ingest some of these foods that you used to ingest. And that's just your brain trying to recover some of these behaviors that you used to utilize in the past that would seemingly increase your likelihood of survival. If you want to learn more about these evolutionary concepts when it comes to why we do such detrimental things in our modern behavior that used to serve us well in our caveman days, then check out The Pleasure Trap by Dr. Doug Lisle and Dr. Alan Goldhammer. I'll link it below. It's a great read. It's helped me frame so much of this problem in a way that makes sense. Like, we are not meant to deal with this. It's not a normal problem. We are supposed to consume things that are going to increase the likelihood of our survival and reproductive capabilities. We're not supposed to refrain from our innate drives and our intuition to, consume certain substances. The fifth reason to refrain from eating SOS is the fact that they induce weight gain. Oil is literally 4,000 calories per pound, or 120 calories per tablespoon. That is so easily obtained in the current food supply because you will find them in anything from granola to spaghetti sauces and salsas, and milk even has oil in it these days. Nut milks. You're gonna need to get real savvy with reading your food labels because these things can pop up in the weirdest places that you would never, ever, ever assume you would find them. So not only is oil the most highly calorically dense food available to humans, but as I mentioned earlier, salt and sugar also stimulate appetite, and they increase blood sugar levels, causing that excess release of insulin, which ultimately tells your cells to store fat. It is no surprise that over 70% of the population is either overweight or obese right now. If you're one of those individuals suffering with this problem, you will significantly improve your situation by removing the salt, sugar, and oil containing foods from your diet. All right, guys, let's wrap this up with number 6. These substances will desensitize your taste buds. Now, if you've ever drank whole milk and then tried to reduce the fat intake by drinking skim milk, or if you used to put 3 scoops of sugar in your coffee and you tried to reduce it to 1, or even if you used to cook with a lot of salt, so you wanted to try making a salt-free meal, you will know exactly how difficult it is to reduce your consumption of these foods gradually. Because when you remove them to any degree, your taste buds immediately pick up on it to the point where you feel like anything else just tastes bland or not thick enough, or just, it doesn't quite feel right in your mouth or in your body because it's not stimulating the same amount of dopamine. So your taste buds are going to tell you that you need something more stimulating. So basically, you're missing out on all those wonderful whole foods. Legumes, whole grains, fruits, veggies, nuts and seeds, these all contain their own amount of sugars and sodium and fat. And you can pick up on those distinctions, those minute amounts, when you don't consume foods that are artificially created to have high concentrations of salt, oil, and sugar. So like I mentioned, that 30 to 90 days is all you need to get these substances out of your regular diet and out of your what you're currently accustomed to the point where you can start really appreciating these deliciously tasting whole foods. And don't forget that animal products are completely processed too. So they're always containing salt, oil, and sugar. So if you really want to clean up your diet, you're going to want to do a whole food plant-based version of a SOS-free attempt. So if you're interested in more information and support on implementing an SOS-free diet, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you can watch my other videos on things like substitutions you would use in the kitchen, like sweeteners and salt substitutes, oil substitutes, as well as how to go about cooking and sauteing and baking without salt, sugar, and oil. You can also find recipes on my blog at Modern Nutrition Designs, or you can watch some of my cooking demos on this channel. So make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will